Hey guys, here for your lesson for the week, and we're going to be talking about two things here this week. We're going to be talking about factoring polynomials, and then we're actually going to talk about something called magic numbers. Okay, magic numbers is something that's going to help us for when we start factoring quadratics. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started here. Oh yeah, make sure you have a piece of paper out for notes. You are going to be submitting a picture of your notes um, at the end, so make sure you are taking the notes. Okay. All right. Here we go. Now the instructions here are going to say factor. Okay, the common factor out of each expression. Now, what we're going to be doing today is essentially we're looking for greatest common factor. I'm going to show you one way in this video. You're also going to have an alternate method that is going to be posted as a separate YouTube video. So let's just go ahead and take a look at this. So, first, what I'm going to be looking at is the numbers themselves. So for number one, 12p squared plus 9p, I'm going to look at the two numbers, 12 and 9, and I'm going to think to myself, what can I divide evenly into both of these? Okay, well, 12 and 9 are both divisible by 3. So I'm going to divide them both by 3. That's going to leave me with, if I divide it, 12 divided by 3, that's a 4p squared. 9 divided by p, or by 9 divided by 3 is 3, so that gives me a 3p. Okay? And then I'm going to look at my my numbers one more time. Okay, 4 and 3, and I'm going to think to myself, is there anything I can divide out? Okay, well, the only thing you can divide out is 1. Well, when you're 1, you're done with the number. Okay, now I'm going to look at my variables. Okay, for the first one, there's p squared. That is 2 p's. Okay, p times p. And I have p to the first. So that means they have a p in common. And I'm going to divide out that p now. So 4p squared divided by 1p, that's going to be 4p. 3p divided by 1p is going to be 3. The p's no longer exists. Okay, so this is what I have left. Okay, after doing all my division, 4p plus 3, that goes in my parentheses. And then my other two numbers, the 3 and the 1p, I'm going to multiply those. So 3 times 1p is 3p. I got my dog whining here in the background. Come on, pup. Just like y'all sometimes, as you're probably watching this, whining, wishing Mr. Alone would just stop. Okay, number 2. 81x to the third plus 63x squared. Okay, well, for this one, when I look at it, I see two numbers that are divisible by 3. Now, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to do this a specific way just to kind of show you how it can be done if you don't always pick out the biggest value. So I'm looking at the numbers first, 81 and 63. Okay. I know both of those can be divided by 3. So I'm going to go ahead and go with that, 3. And that's going to leave me with 27x to the third plus 63 divided by 3, 21x squared. Well, if I look, I got 27 and 21. I can divide by 3 again. Okay. Well, that's going to be 9x to the third. 21 divided by 3 is positive 7x squared. Okay. I look at my numbers, 9 and 7, and 1, it's done. So numbers are done. Now I'm going to look at my variables. I have x to the third and x squared. Okay. Well, that means I have x squared that I can divide out. You always go with the smallest exponent. Okay. So for this one, when I divide out x squared, I'm going to get 9x plus 7. Okay. Now remember, all these things I divided out now are going to get multiplied and put in front. You're basically doing the opposite of the distributive property. 3 times 3 times 1x squared is 9x squared. Okay. All right, let's look at a couple more here together. So let's go ahead and look at these two. Now, instructions are still the same. We are still factoring, okay? But notice that there's 3 values. So when I go to divide something out, it has to divide into all 3 of them. Okay, so I look at this number 1, which is really number 3. And I look at that one, negative 30, 80, and negative 20. Now here's a little trick. They all end in 0. So I know I can divide all of these by 10. Okay, and if I divide those all by 10, that's going to give me negative 3, x to the third. 80 divided by 10 is 8, x squared. And negative 20x divided by 10 is negative 2x. Okay, I look at my numbers again. Negative 3, 8, negative 2, and 1, I'm done. There's nothing else I can divide out. Okay, you always want to check for that because you are going to have situations where you don't find the biggest value right away. Now look at my x's, x to the third, x squared, and x. Well, the smallest of those is the x to the first, so I'm going to divide out an x. And I'm going to get negative 3, take an x out of that, so it's now x squared. Positive 8. Divide an x out of that, so I'm going to take an x out of it. So I have plus 8x, and negative 2x divided by 1x is negative 2. Okay, that goes in my parentheses, and these multiplied together go on the outside. 10 times 1x is 10x. Okay, let's go ahead and look at one more here for this one. Look at all 3 of those. Negative 6, negative 3, and 15. And I can divide all 3 of those by the number 3. So negative 6 divided by 3 is negative 2. Negative 3 divided by 3 is negative 1. And 15 divided by 3 is positive 5. Always double check my numbers. Look for what I can divide. Negative 2, negative 1, and 5. And it's 1, I'm done. Okay, so I'm done with my numbers. Now I'm going to look at my variables. B to the fourth, b to the third, b squared. The smallest exponent is the b squared. So that's what I'm going to divide out, b squared. Okay, so let's go ahead and divide that out. That's going to give us negative 2. Dividing a b squared from b to the fourth, so I am left with b squared. B to the third divided by b squared. I'm left with negative b, or negative 1b, you may have written. And 5b squared divided by b squared is just positive 5. Okay. That goes in parentheses. And then remember, these multiplied together go on the outside. So 3 times 1b squared is 3b squared. Okay. All right, what I'm going to need you guys to do is go ahead and pause the video, and I want you to do these 4 problems. All right, number 1. I'll look for what I can divide out here. And in this particular one, these numbers are both divisible by 7. Okay, so if I divide by 7, that's going to leave me with 8n squared plus 5. Always double check. 8 and 5, there's nothing else to divide out, so 1, it's done. And I'm going to look at my variables. Now notice, I don't have a variable on the 5, so there's nothing else to divide out. So the 8n squared plus 5 goes in my parentheses, and I'm just multiplying 7 times 1, 7. And that is factored. Okay, number 2, I have 3 and 5. Well, there's nothing I can divide out, so 1, I'm done. Okay, look at the variables. We have x to the fourth and x to the first. The smallest one is x to the first. So I'm going to divide that out. So that's going to leave me with 3x to the third plus 5. That goes in my parentheses. X goes on the outside. Now, if you wrote it as 1x, I'm not going to complain. Okay, but that's how it should be written. Number 3. Got 25, 30, and 30. Well, so another little trick. If they all end in 5s and 0s, I can divide by 5. So divide those by 5. That's going to give me 5v squared plus 6v to the third plus 6v to the fourth. Check my numbers. 5, 6, 6. Nothing else, so 1, I'm done. The smallest exponent is v squared, so I'm going to divide out a v squared. And that's going to leave me with 5 plus 6v plus 6v squared. Okay, notice I basically took that number of v's away, okay, from the exponent. Now, that's what goes inside. These multiplied go outside, so I'd have 5v squared on the outside. Number 4, all end in 0. I can divide these by 10. And that's going to leave me with 3 minus 1x squared minus 1x to the third. Nothing else to divide out, so 1, I'm done. And then I look at my variables, and the 3 doesn't have a variable, so there are no variables that'll be divided out. So in my parentheses, I'm just going to have that. And then 10 times 1 is 10. And I have my answer. Okay. Now, there's an alternate way. Okay, so if that's not making complete sense, it's okay. There's an alternate way that I'm posting with a different video. If you want to see that video, make sure that you go ahead and click on it. But what I need you guys to do right now is go ahead and pause this and complete your homework assignment, your worksheet. When you're done with the worksheet, okay, I want you to come back and finish the video, okay? All right, for our second half, we have magic numbers. Now, this magic number thing is going to be extremely important for us to get as we try to learn how to factor. This is usually, typically one of the hard things that we end up doing, and it all boils down to being able to do this, okay, our little magic X, okay? Now, I'm going to give you a little bit of an idea here, but I'm going to give you 2 numbers, okay? You're going to get a number here. Let me just write a 10 there. And you're going to get a number here. Put a 7 there. And what you're trying to figure out is 2 numbers that multiply to be the top one and add up to be the bottom one. Okay? Again, multiply to be 10, add to be 7. Now, what some of you are going to find is that when you do these, it just comes to you, you figure it out, and you're like, oh, yeah, this one is 2 times 5. Okay? Well, think about it. 2 times 5 is 10. 2 plus 5 is 7. I found 2 numbers that work, and it'll only be one set of numbers that'll work. I will emphasize, I might write it as 2 and 5. You might write it as 5 and 2. It's irrelevant. Okay, we have the same 2 numbers. Okay, so we're going to do a few sets of these together. I'm going to show you a method that will work in case it does not come into your brain. Okay, so here's our first set we're going to go through together. Okay, now go ahead and make sure that you write these X's down. Okay, there's 4 of them, and fill them out. Okay, so the first one we have here, we have multiplies to be 35 adds up to be 12. Now, some of you might already know what the number is, and that's great. The two numbers are. I'm going to show you a way to figure it out. If you're unsure, you always start with 1 in the number. So I always start with 1 times 35. Well, 1 times 35 is 35. But if I switch this to addition, I'm going to get 36. And I want 12. So that's not it. Well, the number after 1 is 2. And we need to figure out what this other number is, okay? It's not 35, okay? But I can figure it out by using a 35. 35 divided by 2, it's a decimal. Cross it off, okay? You're looking for nice numbers. 35 divided by 3, it's a decimal. Cross it off. 35 divided by 4 is a decimal. Cross it off. 35 divided by 5 is 7. So now I have another one to check. I know 5 times 7 is 35. If I change this to addition, I get 12. There's my two numbers, 5 and 7. Okay. The second one multiplies to be 60, adds up to be negative 23. Okay, so some of you will be able to just figure this out. I'm going through the way that you can go step by step. Start with 1 in the number. 1 times 60. Well, 1 times 60 is 60. If I change that to addition, I get 61. That's not it. Okay? Next number is 2. Now remember, we're going to try to figure out what this other number is by dividing. Okay? So 60 divided by 2 is 30. Well, if I change this to add, 2 plus 30 is 32. Not it. Next number is 3. 60 divided by 3 is 20. If I change this to add, I get 23. But hold on a second. I want negative 23. Okay? So in this situation, I need to remember I can also multiply by using negative times a negative. Negative 3 times negative 20. That is still equal to positive 60, like I need. If I change this to addition now, I get negative 23. So my two numbers are negative 3 and negative 20. Okay, let's look at the next one. Multiplies to be a negative, adds to be a negative. So multiplies to be negative 40, adds to be negative 18. Okay, now in this scenario, I'm going to go ahead and start off. Again, 1 times negative 40. Well, 1 times negative 40 is negative 40, so that works. If I check the addition, 1 plus negative 40 is negative 39. That's not what I wanted. Okay, use 2. Negative 40 divided by 2 is negative 20. 2 times negative 20 is negative 40. 2 plus negative 20 is negative 18. Hey, look at there. I got it. 2 tries. Okay, the very last one here. Multiplies to be negative 80, adds up to be 11. So let's start. 1 times negative 80. 1 times negative 80 is negative 80. But if I add that, I get negative 79. Not it. 2. Negative 80 divided by 2 is negative 40. This is multiplies, right? It multiplies by negative 80, but that adds up to be negative 38. So that's not it. 3. Negative 80 divided by 3 is a decimal. So move on. 4. Negative 80 divided by 4 is negative 20. I'm getting closer. 4 times negative 20 is still negative 80. When I add this up, I get negative 16. Still not it, but I'm getting closer. 5. Negative 80 divided by 5 is negative 16. Well, 5 times negative 16 is negative 80. If I add this, I get negative 11. Well, hold up. I got negative 11. I do have to remember if I switch my negative sign in multiplication, if I go negative 5 and a positive 16, I'm still going to multiply and get negative 80. But now when I add, I'm going to get positive 11. I have my two numbers. Okay. Let's do a few more. Now, if you feel like you are a little bit comfortable with this, I want you to go ahead and try this next set on your own. Okay, so if you feel comfortable, go ahead and pause the video and complete these 4. If you would like to go step by step with these with me, okay, I'm going to go step by step right now. Okay, so the first one, top left, multiplies to be negative 36, adds to be 15. Again, if you think of it, just put it down and move on. But if you can't think of it, and I usually give myself about 30 seconds to a minute, okay, start with 1 in the number. 1 times 36. Well, 1 times 36 is 36, but if I add, I get 37. Not it. Next number is 2. 36 divided by 2 is 18. Okay? Well, 2 times 18 is 36. 2 plus 18 is 20. Not it. Oh, I just lost my deal. There it is. 3. 36 divided by 3 is 12. Well, 3 times 12 is 36. If I change this to addition, I get 15. Bada bing, bada boom. I have my two numbers, 3 and 12. The next one multiplies to be 32, adds to be negative 12. So start off with 1 in the number. 1 times 32 is 32. If I add that, I get 33. Not it. Next number is 2. Now remember, you got to figure out what the other number is. 32 divided by 2 is 16. So that means these were going to multiply. 2 times 16 is going to multiply, correct? But if I add it, I get 18. So still not it. 3. 32 divided by 3 is a decimal. 4. 32 divided by 4 is 8. Well, 4 times 8 is 32. If I add that, I get positive 12. Well, remember, again, I can get a positive 32 by doing negative times a negative. Negative 8 times negative 4 is going to be 32. But now if I add those, I get negative 12. So I have my numbers. Okay, bottom left here. Multiplies to be negative 24, adds up to be 2. 1 times the number. 1 times negative 24 is negative 24. That adds up to be negative 23. So not it. 2. Negative 24 divided by 2 is negative 12. So that multiplies by negative 24. But that adds up to be negative 10. So not it. 3. Negative 24 divided by 3 is negative 8. Well, that multiplies to be negative 24, but that adds up to be negative 5. I'm working my way there, but I'm still haven't found it yet. Okay. The next one is 4. Negative 24 divided by 4 is negative 6. Well, that multiplies to be negative 24, but unfortunately, this adds to be negative 2. But remember, I can switch my negative sign. If I go negative 4 times 6, that's still going to give me negative 24. But now when I add, I get my positive 2. So there we are, negative 4 and 6. Okay, the last one, we have multiplies to be negative 30, adds to be negative 1. So we got 1 times negative 30. That multiplies right, but that adds up to be negative 31. Next number is 2. Negative 30 divided by 2 is negative 15. Well, that multiplies correct, but if I change to addition, that adds up to be negative 13. So not it. Oops, I said negative 31, guys, here. Oh, Lord. Senor Rolon. That's negative 29. Gee, many Christmas. All right, moving on. 3. Negative 30 divided by 3 is negative 10. That multiplies to be negative 30, but if I change this to add, that's negative 7. Next one. 4. Negative 30 divided by 4 is a decimal. 5. Negative 30 divided by 5 is negative 6. Well, 5 times negative 6 is negative 30. And if I add these up, oh yeah, I get negative 1. 5 and negative 6. Okay. You're going to do a set of 8 here. Okay. What I want you to do is go ahead and pause the video, and I want you to do these 8. Okay. All right. Here are our answers. Okay. For this first one, it is 4 times 20. 4 times 20 is 80. 4 plus 20 is 24. The second one, it's actually going to be negative times a negative. I need negative 2 and negative 7. Negative 2 times negative 7 is 14. Negative 2 plus negative 7 is negative 9. Okay, for this third one, I should have 1 times negative 8. 1 times negative 8 is negative 8. 1 plus negative 8 is negative 7. The fourth one, I should have 2 times negative 3. 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. 2 plus negative 3 is negative 1. For the fifth one, I should have 3 times 17. 3 times 17 is 51. 3 plus 17 is 20. For the bottom, for number 6 here, I should have negative 3 times 16. Okay, negative 3 times 16 is negative 48. Negative 3 plus 16 is 13. For the seventh one, I should have negative 3 times negative 15. Negative 3 times negative 15 is 45. Negative 3 plus negative 15 is negative 18. And last, but definitely not least, I should have negative 3 times 30. Negative 3 times 30 is negative 90. Negative 3 plus 30 is positive 27. Okay. If the magic number stuff is not completely, like you just don't understand it quite yet, that's fine. We're going to review it some more next week, but we have to get good at that. There's no way around it. And you'll see that as we start doing stuff next week. Please make sure that you turn in the worksheet, and make sure you attach a picture of yourself with your notes. Okay. I need to be able to see that it's you. Okay. That was part of why I was doing that. I want to see you guys because I miss y'all. But 2, I want to make sure that it's actually physically you holding that wonderful, wonderful note page. So you guys have a great week, and we will see each other at some point. All right. Bye.